Welcome to the Children in Scotland podcast. In this episode, we hear from Simon Massey, our Head of Engagement and Learning, and Jemma Galbraith, our Learning and Events Manager, as they discuss building a learning programme for the children's sector.
Hi, my name is Simon Massey. I'm the Head of Engagement and Learning at Children in Scotland. In my department, I have the membership service, the comms team, and the learning and events team.
And my name is Jemma Galbraith, and I am the Learning and Events Manager for Simon's team.
So, Jemma, what are we going to talk about today?
Today we're going to talk about a couple of things, Simon. I'd like to talk about our learning programme in general and the kind of things that it includes. I'd like to talk a little bit about my team that deliver it and how we decide what we're going to include in the programme when we're developing it, and also like to talk a little bit about how we make it accessible, or as accessible as we can at least.
Oh, brilliant. Good stuff. So one of the things that I wonder about is, can you tell us a bit about what do we actually mean by the learning programme?
So the learning programme as a whole is a hybrid programme of in-person and online learning opportunities, and we cover lots of different topics. But the main different areas we've got our open learning programme, and within that we've got a range of different webinars and in-person events. They could be anything from a couple of hours to full day events. We've got other programmes, including a 3-day programme on relationships. We've got a residential coming up on trauma-informed practice. We have 1-day conferences as part of our open programme. We've just recently had a great 1-day conference on children's mental health, and we've got one coming up soon on early years, and another one we're planning on child protection. We have a big annual conference nearly every year. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. And we have a diploma in therapeutic life story work. So that's like one branch of our learning programme, is the open learning programme. We also have e-learning modules. We've got a range of free learning modules available to everyone, which are great for sort of introductory level stuff. We've got some on children's rights, building good relationships. We've got one about participation with children and young people that might be of interest to people. So yeah, all free and on our e-learning hub. Another part of our learning programme is our commissioned training offering. Again, we can do that on a range of different topics, and it could be anything from just a 2-hour webinar that you're delivering as a one-off training session for your team, or it could be a programme of in-person learning or a programme of webinars that at all different levels across an organisation. And I think sometimes people are not always sure what training would be best, but we can have a conversation with you. We can have a little chat. We can talk about any issues that you're having, or have a talk about your training needs to help you figure out what might be the best option for you and for your team. And to complement that, we also can offer consultancy and advice to sort of further support the training. So, for example, if you were looking at getting child protection training across your organisation, we can further support you by helping you review your processes that you've got in place and any documentation and things like that as well, so that you can be confident that that you're meeting all the needs and that you're following good practice as far as child protection goes. There's quite a lot in this programme, as you can tell. Finally, we've got membership events. So these are free events that we run for our members on a range of different topics. Some on things like the UNCRC, more general topics such as HR side of things and event management. The members' events are generally online, but we are looking to start doing support in-person events again, hosted by our members. So watch this space. And we also have events that we run in collaboration with some of our partners, but we'll talk a wee bit more about that later. So yeah, quite a lot of different things involved in our hybrid learning programme.
Absolutely. I mean, that is a really broad range of things for your team to be managing. I guess the good thing about it is that there's lots of opportunities for people to engage in different ways, like what works for them, just coming along to a open learning programme webinar, for example, or having some commission training sorted for them. So it's nice to hear that range of stuff. How and who is involved in making that work, because there is so much of it going on?
I am very, very lucky to have a fantastic team who make all this magic happen. There's 6 of us behind the scenes pulling everything together, soon to be 7, watch this space. There's Kat, our senior officer. Then we've got Liz and Aaron Clare, who are our officers, and we've got Monica and Aaron, our coordinators. And I'm sure you'll agree, Simon, they are a very friendly and helpful bunch, and they're brilliant at what they do, as well as being great fun to work with.
Excellent. Yeah, I can absolutely vouch for the team being a great group of people who are super knowledgeable and, as you said, really approachable.
Yeah, and hopefully that's reassuring for people that have maybe not been to in-person events for a while and they might be feeling a wee bit anxious about coming back out to in-person things, that we can pretty much guarantee that there'll be a friendly face there waiting for you.
One of the things I'm conscious of, Jemma, is the learning events team's been through quite a lot of changes over the last sort of year and a half, 2 years. You joined us last summer, so I'm just really interested in kind of knowing what's been maybe one or two of your highlights since joining. How are you finding it as managing the team?
One or two highlights is really tricky. It's been a brilliant nearly year since I started. I have really, really enjoyed it. There was a lot of changes in the team I know before I started, and there's been even more changes since then. But yeah, I'm lucky to have such a strong and such a skilled and such a knowledgeable team. And I think probably one of the highlights for me was our first big in-person event that we did together last November, our annual conference. It was a great opportunity for children in Scotland to be brave and to return to the in-person events on a big scale and to work collaboratively with a range of different organisations across the children's sector. I am relatively new to the children's sector, so it was a brilliant opportunity for me to get to meet some of those organisations and some key people. And it was my first time also working alongside Changing Our World, our Children and Young People's Advisory Board, which was really, really useful to see things from a different perspective, not only during the planning of that event, but actually on the day as well. Just even how we deliver the events themselves on the day. Changing Our World were brilliant, their input there. And hearing the presentations, I don't want to start naming names because I could go on forever, but they were really powerful. I think as a whole, I know it sounds a bit strange, but it's a really good team building experience for us. So it was brilliant meeting new people and getting to network with different organisations and make new contacts. But yeah, it was a good team building experience for our learning and events team and for the wider Children in Scotland team as well. So it was great, and I'm already looking forward to the next one next year, May next year. So yeah, the countdown's on for that now.
I mean, I was really pleased to see the return of the annual conference, and and it felt really good bringing people back together, because it has the impact of COVID on sort of learning and development, on everything really, but from this point of view, learning and development is still ongoing. As you mentioned before, people might feel hesitant about coming back to in-person events, so it was really good to see that return, and us moving into a strong hybrid model of some in-person things but still doing online. So that's really great to see. Kind of flipping it round, I just wonder, have you sort of had, or have you got any, I don't know, sort of frustrations with how it's been going, or what you've been tasked with doing?
Probably one of the biggest challenges is the fact that there's so many things we could be doing, but we're limited in terms of time and the size of team we are and capacity in terms of what we are able to do. So we have to be really careful about prioritising and focusing and speaking to our participants and speaking to our partners and looking at our manifestos so that we are trying to focus our events in the right area. Because yeah, it would be brilliant if we could have an event on the open programme on every single topic under the sun, but obviously that's just it's not feasible, it's not realistic for the size of the team that we are. So that can be a little bit frustrating sometimes, just the challenge of trying to focus on delivering certain key events rather than getting carried away and trying to deliver them on everything. And I think sometimes that sort of post-pandemic world, as far as people's capacity, work pressure seems to be a lot more now, but also the big squeeze on finances. So we just get a lot of feedback often that people love the sound of our training and they would love to be doing more of our training if they've already done some in the past. But often the financial constraints, whether it's getting that time away from the office or actually the cost of the course itself, can be really restrictive for some people. And yeah, it'd be nice if we had the opportunity to remove those barriers.
So picking up on that sort of frustration, what are we doing as Children in Scotland to try and address some of those issues that you mentioned?
We've done a lot of thinking around it, and we've tried to make some changes. We've mentioned a couple of times that it's a hybrid programme that we're trying to offer now. So it's a mixture of online and in person. So the online stuff, obviously, a 2-hour webinar for most people is much more achievable as far as getting time away from work to do that than it is to come spend a day at an in-person event or something like that. So we try and make sure that we do have some sort of shorter webinars that are less of a pressure time-wise, and also that helps people that maybe don't live in the central belt, because obviously traditionally a lot of events are sort of centrally located, but doing the webinars allows us to have a much wider geographical spread, and it reduces travel time, it reduces travel costs, it's more sustainable from the travel point of view. And online events, we're generally able to make them be cheaper, so they are more affordable for people, so that they're more accessible from that point of view as well. And we always strive to keep our prices as low as we possibly can. We need to cover our costs. And if we are in a fortunate position where some of our webinars do get bigger numbers than we were hoping to get, and we do generate a slight surplus, it's really useful because we can put that back in to subsidise other events that wouldn't be financially viable and we wouldn't be able to put on otherwise. And it allows us to develop new e-learning modules and things like that as well, which obviously are another thing that we can offer free of charge, which are hopefully really accessible to people. And we offer member discounts to people that are in membership with us. We offer early bird discounts, and we also have been trying really hard to work with different funders and partnership organisations so that we can offer either free or really low cost training to specific groups of people. But Simon, perhaps that's something you could talk a wee bit more about.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess there's a couple of quite significant partnerships or pieces of funding we've got recently. So one of them is through the Promise Partnership. So I think a lot of people will be aware of the Promise, and we were successful in securing 2 years funding to develop a learning and support program for pupil support staff, which we are now actually working on. So we're looking at launching that at the beginning of next year. But this year we're developing the program with a group of pupil support staff themselves and a group of children and young people, to make sure that what we're going to deliver is actually what's needed out there. And that program, sort of picking up on what you're saying about cost and things like that, that program will be free for people to go on to, which is one of the fantastic things with getting that sort of funding, because it will be specifically for pupil support staff, but then there will be other people who can make use of e-learning modules or other things like that. So that's one of the things we're always looking for, sort of funding opportunities like that. And then when you talk about partnerships, a really successful partnership we're just going into our second year of is the R.S. McDonald Charitable Trust, where we are working with them to produce a learning program for the people who receive grants through R.S. McDonald. And that was really successful in year one, and we're just going into year two. So that way we're having hundreds of staff through their organisations who are receiving grants, getting our training at either no cost to them or incredibly low cost. So yeah, a couple of nice examples there where we work in a very flexible way to try and meet needs of organisations, or take what we do really well and try to get some funding to do it, so we can open it up to the wider sector wherever possible. I just wondered, just going back, Jemma, you mentioned accessibility before, and so we were talking there about a bit of geographical stuff and price and stuff. But I was just wondering, how do we make our learning programme as accessible as possible?
Obviously, there's all different kinds of accessibility. Let's think about a couple of things that we do. We have Recite Me on the Children in Scotland website, and that is used regularly. So that helps make our website more accessible. As far as our in-person events, we're very careful about making sure our venues are accessible in terms of their location and the actual venue itself. That's really important to us. And meeting people's requirements, and we're obviously careful about capturing people's requirements at the point of booking, and then if we need a bit more clarification, we can go back and we can speak to them just to make sure that we are able to provide everything that people need on the day. We provide recordings of webinars because we know from speaking to people that for some people that's really helpful. And whenever we try to use subtitles on our event communications as well. And we're very aware of the fact that this is an area that we can continue to develop in. So we're really, really keen to learn more. If anybody's got particular ideas that they think would be useful for us, or have got any questions around that area, then absolutely it'd be great if they could get in touch. We are, like I said, just developing in that area, but we're keen to make things as accessible as we possibly can. So yeah, any input or advice is very welcome.
Absolutely. I know one of the things we're in discussions within the comms team is around a project around inclusive communications, which would be for us internally, but also externally. And this would be one of those things. So yeah, just reiterating what you're saying there, really happy to have conversations with people who we can, learn from, develop things, etc. So kind of going back a little bit, but looking forward. So we have a massive learning program. So you listed lots of things we do there. But what are some of the key things that's coming up over this next year? What should people look out for?
Some people might be wondering about our annual conference, because we normally have it at the end of the year every year, and we did that. We had that last year, and the plan for this year is, rather than doing it in November as we usually do, we are going to have it in May 2024, the end of May 2024, so save the date. For a number of reasons, really, but there's a lot of big children's sector events happening at the end of the year. Weather-wise, it's not always the best time of year for people to travel in November. So yeah, there's quite a number of reasons that we've decided to move it to May. But just logistically and we think it'll be better for us as an organisation, and it'll be better for other people as well, based on the feedback and the input that we've had from people this last couple of years. So we are in the very early stages of planning for that. We have also we've just had one of our first one-day conferences of the year on children and young people's mental health, which was fantastic. And we've got another 2 one-day conferences coming up. We've got one in November on early years, and then we've got one in March 2024 around child protection. So we're in the planning stages for those as well just now, and really looking forward to working with some more key organisations to deliver those. And the turnout for the Children's Mental Health Conference was absolutely fantastic. It was a brilliant day. There was a brilliant energy in the room. So we're really, really hopeful that we can replicate that again with these other conferences that we've got coming up. We have also got a couple of things that are slightly different coming up. We've got an international exchange coming up in October. We used to host a lot of study trips to Scotland and study trips going overseas to other countries as well. So we are hopeful that in the not too distant future, we'll be able to get back to doing a bit more of those again. But in the meantime, we're really keen to just bring that international audience together again, and to be able to share some best practice from around the world. So we are working on that just now, and so far the programme's looking really exciting. So it'll be over a week at the beginning of October. There'll be webinars at different times of the day on different topics, and we're hoping to have some interaction and some networking and engagement and things like that. So we're really excited about that, and it's nice to be thinking about doing more international stuff. Again, and also just to have an opportunity to share all the good practice that's going on in Scotland, and like I said, to be able to learn from other countries about what good practice they've got going on there too. Our commissioned training offering obviously is just going full pelt, as it always is. Lots of different things coming up, working with a range of organisations all across Scotland, delivering on everything from neurodivergence to child protection to trauma, all sorts of different things, all different topics. And our open learning programme, we have just been working on what that's going to involve between now and the end of the year. So there's lots of different things coming up there, but things like making sense of sensory needs. We have our 3-day programme, the Dynamics of Relationship-Based Practice, which is a 3-day in-person programme run 1 day a month. So there'll be a day in September, a day in October, a day in November. We are just about to finish the first run of that programme, and the feedback so far has just been absolutely fantastic. And people are saying it really is changing their practice. So yeah, we're really excited to be running that again. So yeah, there's all sorts of different things coming up in the open programme in the next 6 months or so. So check it out, check our Eventbrite page out, and you'll be able to see everything that's coming up.
I mean, there is a lot going on, isn't there? So I think
Yes.
there's a lot that you and the team are juggling, which is hard work, I imagine, at some point, but sounds really exciting. Jemma, you mentioned Changing Our World earlier, our Children and Young People's Advisory Group. I'm interested to know a little bit more about how they get involved in our learning and events activity.
They've been involved in a number of different ways so far. They worked with us quite extensively on our annual conference last year. So we had planning meetings with them, and they were involved in everything from like the finalising of the programme in terms of the themes and the speakers. They made us fantastic signage. They input into catering and how we actually used the space itself. We were incredibly lucky that they even chaired one day of our conference for us, co-chaired it, which just was absolutely fantastic. So yeah, they were involved in lots of different ways, both during the planning and on the day itself. And they have also fed into our e-learning module development, the one that we've just recently done on good relationships. They've been involved in that, which has been really, really helpful. And we will be working really closely with them on the annual conference for next year, especially around one of the days that we're hoping to theme on mental health, because that is a key area for changing our world, and obviously a really important area for children in Scotland as well. So we're really looking forward to starting the planning process with them around that too.
That's one of the things that I'm really pleased to see, and how well embedded children and young people's voices and their input is within the development of the learning programme. Clearly it can't be in absolutely everything, but there are certain things where it clearly gets the priority that it needs, and then is in line with the Children in Scotland approach to things.
Absolutely, and although they're not directly feeding into every single event that we do, what feedback they do give us with the events we work on jointly, then we can then take that advice forward into all the events that we do. So they don't directly feedback, but they do indirectly feedback into everything that we do. So I've told you all those range of things that we've got coming up in the next 6 months or so, in the next 6 to 12 months. Simon, what are you most looking forward to?
I would say, well, there's quite a lot of stuff actually, but for me, because the learning and events team is now gelled so well, is really understanding what they're doing, what's going on in the sector. What I'm seeing a lot of evidence of is just this variety of different things that are being offered, which I'm really pleased to see, and really proud of what the team's pulled together. So, you know, like the 3-day program you talked about, 1-day in-person conferences, that hybrid approach, because I think what people want and need out there from a learning and development perspective has changed. I think COVID and the pandemic has changed all of that. And so I think us trying all of these different things, we will get a good sense of what works, what meets people's needs, what doesn't. I think the team is showing, you know, real innovation in what we're doing. I think we're working with some fantastic trainers, some fantastic organisations, and I am just excited by that. Really, where you and the team will take it. I think putting the international exchange on, and where that can kind of kickstart us into doing study trips again, I think is really exciting. It's putting Scotland on an international kind of platform, which I think is something I'm looking forward to. This geeky side of me, I'm really keen that we start getting really good evaluation from all of these, and we're asking people what works for them, what else do we need to do, and that will help us develop kind of sort of future plans as well. And I think all of that is possible because we now have this really strong learning and events team. So, you know, a big thank you from me to you as the manager, and to the rest of the team for what is being pulled together and what we'll be delivering over the next year. So that was quite a long rambling thing, but I hope you got the gist of like how much the things I'm looking forward to from my point of view as head of department.
Thanks, Simon. And I'm really glad that you mentioned our trainers there, because I omitted to mention the trainers when I mentioned our team, and they are absolutely an extension of the L&E team, and we would not be able to do what we are able to do without our brilliant pool of trainers, and they are fantastic, and they're brilliant at delivering. The feedback we get about the training that they deliver is fantastic, but also when it comes to the conversations about what's next and what's up and coming and what's new, they have fantastic ideas, and we'll be able to share share the planning of the program with our trainers. So yeah, I'm glad you mentioned them, because we couldn't do it without them. We're very lucky to have such a brilliant range of trainers.
I guess one of the things I'm conscious of is the best way for people to keep on top of everything we're offering, because it does develop as we go along, isn't it? So what do you say to people as to how they can keep in touch and keep aware of what we're doing?
Absolutely. We have our next issue of our learning guide. We produce a learning guide twice a year. So the next issue of our learning guide is coming out mid-July. So it would be great if people can sign up to receive that, and they can also sign up to receive our emails. So that can all be done via the Children in Scotland website. And also there's the opportunity to follow us on social media, on Facebook and Instagram and on Twitter. And again, all the information for that will be linked on our webpage or in our learning guide.
Thank you for listening to the Children in Scotland podcast. To find out more about all of our work, including our learning and events programme, head to our website at childreninscotland.org.uk.